Hello beloved and precious people, thanks for tuning into the channel, and welcome to today's video. In this video, we will be continuing with a conversation regarding the origins of the dominion of darkness, primarily focusing on the advent and early life of the angelic prince Lucifer inside of heaven. But why? Why does the road of spiritual enlightenment regarding the origins of the dominion of darkness begin with looking at the story of an angel, whose very name means lightbringer? How can an angel of light become the very source of the darkness that is right now resident on the earth? Well, recall that in the first video in this series, I established the understanding that evil always requires a sentient life form, who is capable of independent intelligent thought and action, in order for it to become manifest through action and deeds inside of existence. And ever since the eternity of eternities, evil never had any sentient life form in all of God's universe that could deliberately adopt it and manifest it in existence, since all the sentient life forms created by God were created while good in nature. And it was not until the appearance of the angelic prince Lucifer inside of heaven that evil finally obtained a sentient life form through whom it could manifest itself in God's universe. For it is clear from the scriptures that at some point in his existence inside of heaven, the angel Lucifer ended up plunging into the darkness by shifting his allegiance from good to evil through wicked practice. As it is written in the book of Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 15, that says, "You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created, till wickedness was found in you." Therefore, this is where our journey into understanding the origins of the dominion of darkness must start. We have to look at the advent of the angelic prince Lucifer, right from his creation, his ministry, his beautification in splendor, and his exaltation into a guardian cherub, out of the great favor he had with God the Father, the Ancient of Days. So who was Lucifer before becoming the prince of all evil in the universe? Let us see whom he was earlier on, before becoming the agency of darkness in the universe.
Hey blessed people, I hope this video is expanding the bounds of your understanding. I'd like to ask you to please subscribe to the channel, press the bell notification so that you may get alerts every time we upload new videos. Don't forget to like the video, drop your comments in the comment section, and share this video on your social media. Remember, the more you do these things, then the more the YouTube algorithm pushes out our content to more eyeballs like yours. With that said, let us get back to it.
The angel Lucifer was created as an angelic prince out of God's goodness, just like all the other angelic princes. God Almighty, however, highly favored him from creation, for he created Lucifer more crafty and intelligent compared to the other angelic princes. And right from the onset, God loved and highly favored Lucifer as an angelic prince, for he chose him and delegated him to become the angelic prince in charge of the worship department of heaven, that is very dear to God's heart, and that operates at the center of the temple of God Most High. God had therefore given Lucifer great skill and craftsmanship, in order to facilitate him to stand before God and offer wonderful and lovely worship. The angelic prince Lucifer was therefore in charge of all the sacrifices of worship that were being offered in the holy place of the temple of God in heaven. And he stood and ministered in the holy place of God's temple daily. There, he would lead the angels of the worship department in ascribing glory, honor, and praise to God Most Holy. As Lucifer started executing the responsibilities of his office and ministry, he grew to become very excellent and skillful in leading worship through music and song inside God's temple in heaven. He would write and compose wonderful and lovely worship songs and exquisite music that rose up as a fragrance before God Almighty, thus pleasing God immensely. And he would skillfully organize the worship angels so that they offered worship in the most excellent and perfect way before God's holy place, day after day. Since Lucifer continually stood before God Almighty in his glorious temple, pleasing him day in and day out, by offering wonderful and fragrant worship, and leading the other angels in doing the same. And since he composed and offered worship before God, with great skill and commitment, God Almighty grew to be very pleased with Lucifer. So God favored Lucifer even more, and he clothed him with great and unmatched beauty and splendor, compared to the other angelic princes, as an appraisal for his powerful ministration in God's temple. Lucifer therefore became the most beautiful, decorated, and splendorous angel in all of heaven. He was so splendorous that compared to him, the other angelic princes who were heads of departments all looked dim and dull. This unmatched beauty and splendor that the angel Lucifer beheld brought him great renown in the midst of the angelic brotherhood, and so many of the angels, both princes and ordinary angels, honored Lucifer and looked up to him. As time went on, The angel Lucifer continued to please God greatly with his musical ministrations inside the holy place of the temple of God. And so with time, Lucifer pleased God too much with his music, until God Almighty, the Ancient of Days, decided to draw Lucifer closer to himself. God therefore exalted Lucifer to become a cherub, that is, an angelic prince who has admission into the most holy place of God's temple, and who has direct audience with God Most High. A cherub normally has 6 wings, unlike the angelic princes who have 4 wings, so you can imagine how beautiful and splendorous Lucifer grew to become after being exalted into a cherub. He was now literally on a league of his own. As it is written in the book of Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 13 to 14, that says, "You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you, ruby, topaz and emerald, chrysolite, onyx and jasper, sapphire, turquoise and beryl. Your settings and mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones." After being exalted into a cherub, Lucifer now had direct audience with God Almighty, and he could appear before the Ancient of Days any time he wanted, and speak to him concerning anything. All this came as an appraisal, for Lucifer greatly pleased God with his worship ministry. Because of the great beauty and splendor that Lucifer had, as the glory around him, and because he was a cherub who had direct audience with God Most High, Lucifer grew to be greatly respected and renowned in heaven, in the midst of the brotherhood of the angels. However, in the course of many years, this great favor that Lucifer enjoyed with God Most High led to him becoming self-righteous and conceited. For in his heart, Lucifer erroneously took this appraisal from God as proof that he was somehow special, unique, and more elite and worthy than the rest of God's angels. This was the first seed of evil in Lucifer's heart, this evil notion that he was somehow special. Lucifer therefore became self-righteous, and he started coming down with vainglory and pride. He started seeing himself as great in God's sight, and therefore spiritually and morally elite, compared to his fellow angelic brothers. As time went on, and as the seed of evil sprouted and started growing inside Lucifer's heart, Lucifer started looking down on his fellow angelic brothers, with contempt and disdain. He started seeing them as beneath him, both morally, intellectually, and spiritually. Lucifer therefore started to use his unrestrained audience with God Almighty as a cherub, to relentlessly accuse his angelic brothers of wrongdoing, before God Almighty, the Ancient of Days. Within no time, the angelic brotherhood that had respected, honored, and looked up to Lucifer, started to fear Lucifer, because of the ceaseless accusations that he would level against them before God Most High. Every angel in heaven, therefore begun walking around on eggshells, constantly watching themselves, apprehensive of being accused of wrongdoing before God Most High, the Lord of Hosts, by Lucifer. Lucifer saw himself as spiritually elite, because of the great favor he had with God, and also because of the great splendor and beauty he had gained from standing and worshiping the Most High in the holy place of his spiritual temple. This self-righteous and spiritually elite notion led Lucifer to become proud and full of vainglory, and this was the first fruit of evil that is called sin, that Lucifer produced as a result of the plant of evil that was now growing in his heart.
Thank you for sticking around to the very end. In the next video in the series, we will look at the rapid spiraling and descent of Lucifer down the pit of evil, until he became totally swamped and overrun by evil, thus shifting his allegiance from good to evil and leading a revolt inside heaven to overthrow God. Until then, Shalom Maranatha. Be at peace, for Jesus your Lord is coming.
Hey, blessed people. Thank you so much for sticking around to the very end of this video. Remember, this is only the third video in a series where we are looking at the origins of the dominion of darkness. So remember to please keep your bell notification on so that the next time I upload the next video in the series, you may be notified. With that, see you in the next one. Shalom. Maranatha.